There we go. There's still people joining us. I'm just letting everybody into this Zoom chat, and we shall be starting shortly. Make sure that you've got something to drink. I have muted everyone so far. So just some housekeeping rules. If we're going to have the chat box on, so if there's any questions at any stage during this webinar, just go onto the chat box and post your question in there, and we'll get to those as we go through the webinar. Just a warm welcome to everybody. We've got 37 people in the meeting. It's lovely to have you all here tonight. Thank you for making your commitment, not only to yourself, but also to your business and your people. We're still having a few people joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give this a chance just to get everybody on board, and we'll hopefully be able to start in the next few minutes. All right, there's still one person in the meeting room so far. I've just muted everybody. We just don't want everybody's dogs and cats also involved in the audio. It might be a bit disturbing. If you do hear dogs, it will be mine. So I apologize up front for them, but hopefully they will not be joining our meeting. But maybe while we just wait for the last few to join us, Paul, can you unmute yourself? I'd just like to wish you a warm welcome onto this Cashflow webinar, and thank you for the opportunity to talk to your people during these trying times. And yeah, I just wanted to welcome you and your team onto this Cashflow webinar, Paul.
Thank you very much, Jacques, and thanks for your time. And good evening, everyone else, or good afternoon. I suppose it is a late afternoon. I hope you've all had a good day and that we're going to have a good session tonight together. Yeah, so thanks for spending the time with us, and hopefully we all take something out of it. And after this session, hopefully we have some good news from our president.
Absolutely, Paul. And we'll be finishing on the top of the hour. We will not go over the 7 o'clock time frame, as we know that the president will probably be starting after 7 or just shortly after 7. And hopefully you can get yourself something to drink or eat in the meantime. All right, Paul. So I've got nobody else in the waiting room. We've got 43 people attending. I'm going to start straight away. And what I'll be doing is just sharing my screen. So I'm just going to open up my presentation here tonight of what we will be sharing. There's still a few more people coming in. I'll just open up for them as we go along. And there we go. Let's do the share. Want to make sure that we are still admitting everybody. There we've got Mark and Adrian Slabbert joining us. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so let's kick off. So tonight we're going to share a bit about what do we do 1 week before countdown. So there's 1 week to go, and this is Cashflow seminar number 2 of 4. Before we get on to what we're going to discuss tonight, just a quick recap on last week's Cashflow seminar. And last week we spoke about facing the brutal facts, ladies and gentlemen. And facing the brutal facts really means to get down to the numbers. You know, I always say to my clients that I work with that the numbers tell the story of your business. And if you haven't done your cash flow forecast, you are not facing the brutal facts. And what we want to do is we don't want to assume, we want to know. And what is extremely important that, you know, rather take the bad news, get the bad news out, as opposed to, you know, not knowing, because not knowing, the uncertainty creates a tremendous amount of anxiety. One feels extremely overwhelmed, and it's not conducive to good decision making. When you know when you know what the bad news is, you know what you are dealing with. And even though it's bad news, it just puts you in a much, much better position to be able to deal with that. We then had a cash flow forecast template that we shared with everyone. That was shared, and hopefully that has helped a lot of you to just look at your cash flow in a very simple, simplistic way, have a bird's eye view of it, to ensure what necessary steps you need to take. Because the purpose of the cash flow forecast ultimately is to help you make better decisions. And the better your decisions are, the better your business has the opportunity not to just sustain itself, but also to stimulate growth. And ultimately, is that not why we are in business? Then we had a conversation about reserves, and I urged everyone not to tap into them. That one should rather see through cost-cutting measures or anything else where we can alleviate the issue from utilizing reserves. And the reason for that, I want to remind you, is that we must save our reserves for two things. The one is for the uncertainty of the long run. So we've got to save those reserves for the uncertainty of the long run. The second thing that we have to do is to save those reserves for opportunities. And ladies and gentlemen, there will definitely be opportunities that are going to come out of this. And you want to be the one that has the ability to make use of opportunities. That's the position you want to put yourself in. And then the last thing that we discussed last week was difficult conversations. I've had a few clients asking me, especially with non-performance people, what should they do? Is it fair to have the conversation now during lockdown, or should they rather wait when lockdown is done and only then bring up uncomfortable conversations? Now, my advice to anyone regarding that is have the difficult conversations now. Why? Well, first of all, I think you're being fair to yourself, your business, and the other party involved. Second of all, when lockdown ends, there's going to be so many other things that you need to negotiate, get yourself around, and then to have difficult conversations as well is going to be even more difficult. And what's going to happen is you are not going to have them, and you're going to be in a worse off position. So I'm urging you to have, if it is necessary, I'm not saying you have to have, don't go and look for difficult conversations, but if they are there and you were thinking of postponing it, please don't. Now is the best time more than ever to have those difficult conversations. And this is what our conversation was about last week. So for this week, I'm going to recap another portion that is extremely important, and that is first things first. And this is going to be the theme for every of these sessions that we're going to have, and there's going to be another 2 after this, is really to go and say, am I looking after myself? Now more than ever, it's imperative that you look after yourself. And I'm going to share with you a few things from the Miracle Morning on looking after yourself. Then it's looking after your team. Is your team okay? The people that have built your business or have helped you build your business, are they doing okay? And then the last one, is your business okay? Have you made the best decisions? Have you eliminated or have you mitigated the risks in your business to your best of your ability? Have you faced the brutal facts? Have you done the numbers? Have you looked at your cash flow forecasts? And are you comfortable that you've applied the necessary prudence in uncertain times to be in a position where you can say, my business is okay? So let's talk about looking after yourself. It's the age-old saying that if you take the equation into love, how can you love anyone else if you can't love yourself? And it's the same principle that applies. How can you look after anybody else if you're not able to look after yourself? And most of you will know through the workshops that we've done earlier this year, we spoke about a book called The Miracle Morning. And the reason I really, really enjoyed this book, where Hal Elrod shares his own personal story, shares his story of other people, and very in a simplistic way shares 6 habits that he's put into a nice little formula, is that it's practical. It's practical to the sense that he almost doesn't give you an excuse to say, I didn't have time. Because that's the excuse that comes up for most of us. And I know even for myself, sometimes you go and say, well, geez, man, I need to get to the office, in the days when we could get to the office, I need to get to the office by 7 o'clock. And I just don't have time. I've got to wake up early and I just don't have an hour to do the Miracle Morning stuff. And Hal Elrod sort of gives you the opportunity to say, but hey, you don't need an hour. You can do this stuff in like 6 to 10 minutes. And everybody has got 6 to 10 minutes. And that's the beauty of his stuff. So I'm just going to take you quickly through this. I know it's nothing directly to cost saving. So if you guys, and I know a lot of you maybe haven't been on this for last week and are probably new, I am going to talk about cost savings. But I need to talk about this because I need you to be in the best possible positions to make good decisions. Because when you start to make cash flow decisions, when you start to make cost savings decisions, when you need to make those important decisions about the finances and the money in your business, you need to make sure that you're in the best possible shape to make the best possible solution. And nobody can teach you that. That is your accountability, it's your responsibility, and you have to take ownership of that. And the way you take ownership of that is to make sure that you're looking after yourself. And this is one of a very quick and simple, easy way to look after yourself. Everybody, you will see that in the meeting invite that I've shared with you, if you go into that meeting invite and you scroll down, you'll see there's a YouTube clip. And that YouTube clip is a summary of the Miracle Morning. So after this seminar, go and open that link and make sure that you remind yourself on a regular basis of what the Miracle Morning is and what you need to do to be able to look after yourself. A very, very, very nice reminder. So let's look at an analogy that Hal has used. He talks about lifesavers. And obviously the S, the A, the V, the E, and the R, and the S stands for something. And I'm going to click over to my next slide, where you will see what the lifesaver stands for. And let's just go through that very briefly. So the S in lifesaver stands for silence. It stands for be quiet in your mind and block out the chatter through meditation, prayer, or focused breathing. Now, any of those methodologies are extremely important. And as you will see, you could do that. You just need to do that for 10 minutes. Sit in prayer, sit in meditation. There's some great meditation apps out there. What I'll do is, the one is called Headspace. I'll type that into the comments box. You can look at Headspace as a brilliant meditation app. And the other one that I also use is Insight Timer. I might not be 100% correct on that, but be it as it may, I will look at it and send it to you. So obviously, if you are religious of sort, prayer is amazing. There's lots and lots of power in prayer, or otherwise just breathing. Deep, concentrated breathing and mindfulness is an extremely important activity to silence your mind and to almost empty it so that you can be conscious and just raise your level of consciousness of what is happening in your environment. The second one is affirmations. Affirmations about telling yourself encouraging words to achieve goals, overcome fears, and feel happy. Ladies and gentlemen, affirmations is your self-talk. That's a little voice in your head about how you are talking to yourself. And be careful. Be careful about how you talk to yourself, especially in these uncertain times. Are you having a voice of worry, or are you having a voice of, you know what, it's going to be okay, and I need to position myself to make use of the opportunities? And I can go on for quite some time about affirmations, and especially the next one, visualizations. And you will recall in the workshop, I mentioned to you that you will always default to the memories of the past if you don't have a vision of the future. And visualization is an extremely important part where you've got to visualize a different future. You've got to visualize a future where you are making use of the opportunities throughout COVID-19. You've got to be able to put yourself in a position where you can see that. And the more you can see yourself being successful through this time, the more you have an opportunity to do it. You know, it's like somebody that, you know, if you're going to train for an event, like let's say the Comrades, for instance, and you haven't trained, there's just absolutely no ways that you'll be able to finish the race. And if you haven't trained your brain to visualize a successful future, there's just absolutely no ways that will necessarily happen in your life. The next one is exercise. I can't emphasize exercise any more than what it is. It's about really looking after your body, being healthy. I personally I'm a swimmer, so I love swimming. And unfortunately, through this time, the gyms are out of bounds. And I had to get used to a new training regime. And I actually found that skipping rope has come in extremely handy. And for 10 or 15 minutes, doing some exercises, I found a cool app on the internet. And it really has got the ability to push the heart rate up and get yourself into a positive state. Then I quickly want to talk about reading. So reading, ladies and gentlemen, it's about what you read. Be very careful not to give yourself over too much to the noise that's out there. Make sure that when you listen and read stuff about COVID-19, that it's from trusted sources. But don't spend all your day reading the stats and looking to see where it's all going to end. Rather, make sure that you're also involving yourself in personal development stuff, that you are reading stuff that energizes you, and it helps you see a different version of you and helps support your affirmations and your visualizations. And then the last one is scribing. I can't emphasize this one enough. They're leaving the best for last. But when one actually puts pen to paper is when clarity unfolds. You know, and through my work with clients, that to me is one of the key techniques that I use in coaching clients is asking them to put stuff on paper. Because when you put stuff on paper is when you are creating clarity. So if you've got a plan for your life, put it on paper, like write it out. What does your success plan look like? You've got a plan for your business, write it out. Make sure that it's somewhere on paper, and it's proverbial paper. I mean, obviously, I'm not talking about necessarily the physical paper, but it's got to be documented somewhere. And that's extremely important. So this is a very short guide that I'm taking you through, the lifesaver technique. But go through the video. There's a bit more detail in the video, or alternatively, get yourself the book. There's an amazing tool that I found where one can download free PDFs. I'm going to put it here in the chat. It's called pdfdrive.com. pdfdrive.com. It's a brilliant resource. A lot of free PDF books that you can download. So actually, I haven't checked if the Miracle Morning is on it, but there's a lot of other stuff that you can download by going on to pdfdrive.com. Okay. I'm going to move on to the next part of the conversation. And I'm just gonna end off here by reiterating the fact that you've got to have a morning routine. It's extremely important. It's extremely important that you keep to your routines. You know, I know that some of my clients, you know, they still every morning they dress up as if they're going to work. They have their normal morning routine. They go up to their office, close the door, and they actually get a hell of a lot of stuff done. It's good for your mindset. it's good to keep that routine. I know that I read the book of Yanni Maton. A lot of you will know that Yanni Maton started the very, very successful business called PSG. But Yanni Maton is a very outspoken guy, very much like Raymond Ackerman when Raymond was involved with Checkers. He's got a beautiful book, and he got fired from Checkers before he started Pick and Pay, as did Yanni Maton. Yanni Maton also got fired from one of the other big financial institutions. It just eludes my memory at the moment. But the gist of the story is when I read Yanni Maton's biography, he wrote in that the only thing that kept him sane is, even though he was fired and he didn't have a job, is every morning he stood up, he put on his work clothes as if he's going, and he went to his desk and starting to put plans and stuff together. And that for me is the power of discipline. Discipline sets you free. And if you maintain that and you maintain looking after yourself, you will be putting yourself in the best possible position to make the best decisions for your business going forward. Okay, so let's wrap that part of the conversation up by just reminding you that when the student becomes this teacher, that is when you ultimately learn. When the student becomes the teacher. So whatever we talk about tonight, teach it to your staff, teach it to your agent, teach it to your family, teach it to your friend. In this time of isolation, always think of somebody that could do with a phone call, somebody that could do with a good cheering, and just somebody that asks them how they are. And maybe you could help them and recommend something to them, and be their friend. Okay, so let's go on to the stuff that you guys have really joined this seminar for, and it's cost savings. So it's very interesting. I mean, there are a few ways to save costs, but I just want to talk principally about cost savings, and just remind everybody that there's no such thing as a free lunch. So what there is, because of COVID-19, is financial assistance in paying stuff. But there's actually very few cost-saving elements. I know of a few, and I'm going to ask you to, if anybody knows of any, to start populating them into the chat box. If there's stuff that we've started to miss, or there's things that you've tried in your business. But the reality is there's no such thing as a free lunch. So, over this week, I heard a interview with, it was the COO the CEO of Discovery, Ryan Noach. And I know that Discovery is giving certain companies what they call a payment holiday. So they're talking about a 2-month payment holiday. But listen to the words. It's a payment holiday. It's not a you don't have to pay your premium for 2 months. Sure, you don't have to pay it for premium for 2 months, but you've got to play catch up afterwards. And if that benefits you from a cash flow point of view, by all means do it. But if you can afford it and it doesn't eat into your reserves, I want to urge you to think twice. So there's going to be 2 messages tonight. The one is go and look at cost savings, and we're going to talk about that. And then the other one is make use of the financial assistance that is available, but don't cloud yourself, and be very clear in your head that it's financial assistance and not a cost saving. So be very clear in your head that those are 2 different and 2 separate elements. Okay, so I just wanted to be clear that that everybody understands that there's no such thing as a free lunch, that there's payment holidays, and payment holidays assist you with your cash flow, but it's not a cost saving as such. Okay, so let's have a conversation. Let's have a conversation about cost saving options, and let's talk about the first one. Salaries and wages and agents not receiving an income. We touched on this a little bit last week, but I think, you know, this is an extremely worrying and extremely big issue when people are not receiving income. People don't necessarily all have the ability to have provided for in terms of reserves. And what does one do? Well, there's a few options. Everybody, well, I'm assuming that a lot of you know about the UIF options, to claim from UIF. And I'm going to ask that if anybody has claimed from UIF and has gone through that process, has completed that process, to share with us some of your thoughts. And Paul, I'm going to open it up to you in a sec, just to get your feedback on the UIF stuff, and then also on the financing stuff, because we know that some agents have put deals through, have signed OTPs, but the deeds office is closed, and obviously they haven't received their commissions. In those cases, one can obtain finance against those commissions going forward, knowing that there's also a cost involved with that. Paul, let me open it up to you. Is there any comments or information about agents not receiving income that you are aware of, that some of your franchisees might have been dealt with, that are any good ideas?
Yeah, Jock, firstly, just the UIF.
Yes.
It is actually fact that UIF applications have started being paid out. Our auditor, who deals with both head office and my franchise, I made applications for both of them. I haven't received UIF for head office, but I have for our franchise. And I do know of several other franchises that have. I did speak to a franchisee today who has been processing the application themselves and has said, look, he's butting his head because they keep rejecting the application, which I think it's quite a cumbersome process, hence me just letting my auditor do it at a cost.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do for him is to just get an affirmation from the auditor as to what he'll charge other people to do it for them. Okay. But otherwise, first prize is to let your auditors make that application for you, because they are paying out. I'm not sure who. I know that I had heard that it was FNB clients first. I don't know why. And I've got both with FNB, but I've only been paid one. So those are being paid. Then with regards to agents, you know, we did on the last session have a couple of people saying, yes, they have registered their agents for UIF. So there's a possibility of claiming the minimum wage UIF for the agents. You know, something's better than nothing. And there were others that haven't registered agents for UIF or minimum wage. So they've got a predicament. And how we approached it in our franchise with our agents is we listed all the agents to sort of analyze, okay, who are those agents and what do we understand of their financial position? You know, have they got a partner? Is that partner the breadwinner? Is that partner hopefully going to be getting their salary at this time? And then we shortlisted it to a handful. I think it was 4 or 5 agents that were worried. And then we looked into it further, and we eventually came down to, I think, 3 agents that we needed to look at supporting, because there's no income at all, and they're the breadwinner with a child at home. Mm. So we've had to approach it on an individual case, and I know that I have heard from other franchisees that have been doing the same. So it would be nice to see on the chat box if anyone else has done anything else.
Okay. So what I like about your approach, Paul, is that you've actually haven't necessarily applied a blanket approach to everyone, but you've done the important thing. You've had the critical conversations with certain people, certain agents, and made sure that those ones that are battling, that you are providing a sort of a helping hand to them in whatever shape or form, but at least that they can pull through these difficult times.
Okay, thanks, Jacques. And I do see there's just sort of the last comment that came through was Brett. He made an application for UIF on Saturday the 18th and was paid out on Monday the 20th. So,
That's amazing.
It's amazing that so quickly. I know Lee's asking, Brett, can I get some tips there? So, yeah, I'm not sure how he managed to do that. There was also a question, I don't see, it's just a number, so I can't see who it is. Agents on commission do not receive UIF. No, not unless they've been registered for UIF and UIF has been paid.
Yeah.
Other than that, they won't. No.
So then to sum it up, Paul, it's either you pay the agents UIF or you claim UIF if they have been registered. Alternatively, you can help them obtain finance through, I think it's Rodell that you guys are using, or is an option. And then the third one is you help them yourself for the ones that are critically needed and that are not in a position to help themselves. Am I correct by summing it up with those three?
Correct, Jacques. And I see people are still asking whether they were paid out tiers fund or normal, and it seems like there is both UIF and the TERS, so the two different.
Okay. All right. Are there any other questions regarding salaries or wages that we need to discuss, or that anybody has before we move on to some of the other items that we've identified as possible cost savings, or not necessarily cost savings, but cash flow savings opportunity? I see there's another one coming through. How does commission UIF differ from salary UIF? Paul, have you guys got an answer on that one?
Commission won't be UIF. So the commission earners, you either need to register them with a minimum wage, which, there's that lot of controversy around this. Everyone is supposed to be on a minimum wage, including agents. And, I think a lot of our offices aren't too happy to pay agents that minimum wage because it's a continuous calculation of deductions. So you pay them, but then you deduct it off the commission. So I think some offices are running it where they're paying them a minimum wage and others aren't.
But Paul, what would you, just going forward as a best practice, what would you, from a head office perspective, recommend? And I know that it's not usually your thing. You allow your franchises to sort of, be autonomous and do the best business decisions that they do. But if you did, what would you say is the best way going forward?
Jacques, we've never done the minimum wage because we bring in so many interns. To be paying the minimum wage to several interns, and most of them, so I'd say sort of between 60 and 70% of your interns just roll over within 3 to 6 months. Okay. So you're going to be paying that minimum wage, plus on top of that, it's an office expense. So, they're costing you 5,000-6,000 Rand a month, if not more. And you're having to pay them a minimum wage. It's really just not a viable thing. So it's been very controversial in our industry. And I know it, and there's a lot of agencies that aren't paying the minimum wage. Okay. Because it's only really respective to your new people that are coming in before they start earning a commission. Once they're earning a commission, they're earning in excess of the minimum wage. Okay. So it just becomes an administrative thing.
Okay.
But coming through circumstances like this, Jacques, with a case that's just happened, and we're all looking and scrounging around for any form of income. So UIF on an agent's account might have been something where that minimum wage was declared, and that one could have at least claimed a little bit of something for them. Yeah. So maybe going forward, if something like this ever happens again, maybe we should be geared and be doing it that way.
Okay. All right. Let's
I don't know.
move.
Is there anyone that has been giving minimum wages to agents that's on the call at all?
So Ria,
Ria.
yes. Cecilia has got a no. So, okay.
Ria, do you give that to all of your agents?
Ria, just
No.
unmute you. There we go.
Yeah. No, Paul, only to the newcomers. But you know, in this situation, you're going to have to carry them for another 4 months, so it's making it difficult. But we are going to claim unemployment for them because they will be paid out the minimum wage, I think. I just have a question about the TERS funds. How much do they pay per person? Somebody told me it's up maximum 3,500 Rand per person that they're paying out. I'm waiting for my payment now.
Ria, I'm not sure what the maximum amount is on that.
Okay, if anybody knows what the maximum amount is, please share that with us in the group chat. So Ria, just watch the group chat for that. Maybe somebody can come up. So thank you very much for that, Ria. There we have 750 Rand per week per person. The max is 38% of, Peter says it's 38% of 11,712 Rand. Okay. All right, Paul, I'm going to move on. I just want to have a discussion quickly about pension and provident funds. I'm not sure how many of your franchises actually do their own pension and provident funds. Have you got any idea, Paul?
No, Jacques, I'm not sure how many do that. I know from a medical, we've got a lot that are on the Momentum product that we offer, but it would be interesting to find out who does or if anyone offers pension and provident funds.
Yeah,
but we don't.
Yeah, just type in there if you do offer pension or provident funds. Otherwise, you know, I don't want to talk about something that isn't necessarily going to be applicable. So if you have that, there's Yolanda's got a no. Okay, so no. They say no answer is also an answer. So,
it seems like no pension and provident, but medical aid, which is the Momentum.
So I know Discovery has given the 2-month payment holiday. And I know Momentum is also big in competition with Discovery, so I would be surprised if Momentum doesn't do the same. I don't know if you had any communication from Momentum directly, Paul, perhaps?
I haven't had anything, no.
Okay. But that might be
we can find out if they're prepared to give a holiday.
Maybe a good idea, and just share it with the franchises if you were able to. You know,
we'll inquire upon everyone that, because I think there are quite a few franchisees that use the product.
Yeah. Excellent. All right, I'm going to move on to rentals and bonds. So first of all, rentals and bonds for me is 2 elements. The one is a cost-saving element, and the other one is just a cash flow element. So let's talk about the cash flow element firstly. I know of clients that have gone to the banks, and the banks have allowed them some cash flow relief. Some banks actually asked for you just to service your interest, but some of my clients have also managed to get their bonds payment holiday completely, not servicing interest or capital for 3 months. But the reality is that it's still going to cost you money because that interest isn't going away. So you're just compounding the interest and or extending your payment term. But it is a big number, and it does help you on your cash flow portion. So the cash flow one is a communication between you and your bank. And that's going to be a very individual thing. You know, I don't think a head office or a franchise can necessarily assist with that. I haven't seen that happen before. It's going to be dependent on each one's own credit rating and credit history with a bank. Paul, have you got any comments on the bonds before I talk about the rentals regarding properties?
No, Jacques, but I have had personal experience with it, and have managed to myself in the building that we own. Mark and I have applied to Nedbank, and they've basically, we're on a 3-month interest-only repayment. So it just buys us a little bit of cash flow for the next 3 months. So they certainly are accommodating people. And yeah, if you own the building, definitely something to look at.
To look at. Yeah, I've got one of my clients are with Investec, and they actually got theirs totally, you know, a payment holiday on the whole premium.
Okay.
Is there anybody? No, but it's going to depend on banks. You know, I think Investec has maybe got a better ability to stomach it than Nedbank. I know Nedbank has been taking some flack in the market just before lockdown in any event. Any other comments regarding bonds or experiences that people have had with bonds? Please share that with us in the group chat, and I'll refer to them. The other conversation that I just want to step into is the rental conversation. And I think, you know, COVID-19 and the lockdown period has given us an extreme opportunity again to be very conscious of our expenses and to review our cost structures. Because what happens is ultimately, you know, we incur costs and we start growing and having more cost. And it's like the frog, you know, if you've got hot water, boiling water, and you put a frog in it, he's going to jump out because he's going to burn and he's going to be hot. But if you put a frog in a pot and you just gradually heat it, the frog won't jump out, and at the end the frog will die because he won't feel the heat. And that's the analogy I use with cost. You know, costs creep up and creep up and creep up and creep up, and you don't feel it in the small increments that it does. And then one day when you look at your overhead structure again, you go, oh my gosh, how did I get here? Where do I have all these expenses? So I think this is a great opportunity to review those expenses and relook at them and ask yourself some tough questions and go back to what we said in the first seminar about facing the brutal facts, and really go and think about your properties that you're operating your businesses from. You know, I had one client in the Just Property group, which had 2 floors. You know, in the top floor, he had his rental guys, in the bottom floor, his sales guys. And the question was asked, do you actually need both floors? And I think those are questions that each one has to deal with themselves, but go there and go and review whether you really need all the rental space that you currently have, and isn't there another way that you could do business? I know that people have certain rental spaces because they have the argument, yeah, we want to be on the main road, and having an office on the main road is very good marketing for us. Well, maybe it's time to review that. Maybe you just need an ad, which is a lot cheaper, and have your office just 2 blocks down, which is not on the main road, but maybe at a square meter rate, half the price. I don't have the answer for you yet, but what I do urge you is to go and look into the rental space, especially, and see if there's any opportunity for you to look at those costs. Paul, have you had any experiences from your side or from any of your franchisees that you know about rental options or opportunities that they could have taken?
Jacques, from my side, the TED office, I've made an appeal out to our landlord, and he only made the appeal today because I thought the property had been sold and contacted the wrong party. Okay. But I'm back at the right party, and yeah, I'm sure we'll also be able to make I'm hoping a 3-month payment plan with
payment plan. Yeah.
So, yeah, look, I think everyone is quite accommodating in circumstances, but I think bottom line is we all need to understand, as you highlighted earlier, Jacques, that it's not a holiday as in it's going away.
No, it's
these
not.
people are going to expect payment. As us as property managers are dealing the same with our residential tenants. Same with the people that are accommodating us with offices. But yeah, we're going to have to pay them. But I think wise words for us to reevaluate the spaces that we occupy. Jacques and I had that conversation with Mark this morning. You know, we've got a very big property of almost 600 square meters that we occupy as a franchise, and you really need to think very hard after circumstances like this and how one can work remotely. Do we need all the place that we are occupying? Because it's you know, it's a big overhead.
Yeah, and maybe there's an opportunity to actually sublet some of it, you know, and bring in auxiliary services, bring in an attorney or what, you know, or maybe a digital design agency or something of that sort, you know, to help you cover those costs.
Absolutely. And what's quite promising, Jacques, we've got some comments there of 50% discount from their landlord, somebody else not being charged April rent from the landlord. So, you know, I think each of these is person to person that can, you know, when you reach out to those people.
No,
that,
absolutely.
You
and
know,
I think,
and hopefully you've built a personal relationship with your landlord, because that's what it's about. It's about those relationships.
Absolutely. All right, let's leave that conversation there. Let's move on to insurance. You know, once again, I know, you know, one of my clients are in the insurance industry. They have given relief in certain circumstances, but once again, I think it's something to review. You know, if you've got a vehicle insurance and your vehicles aren't driving around, it's obviously there's a limitation in risk, and you could have your vehicle insurance reduced. This insurance client of mine, I know they've done it for their clients. So from a vehicle insurance point, there's absolutely something to consider. But once again, it's going to be personal, and you've got to go and speak to your insurance company. Paul, is there anything from you and to the people on this call? Please share with us anything that you've had in terms of insurance where you've been able to obtain any savings. Paul, has head office been able to obtain any savings regarding insurance?
I haven't cut any of our insurance. You know, I have discussed it with a couple of franchisees just in personal phone calls, where I've heard of some people cutting their motor vehicles and ensuring that those motor vehicles are locked away somewhere and not being used to go and shop or anything, because that's where you do stand a risk if those vehicles are going out, or if they're stolen, if you've reduced insurance. And that's probably your biggest insurance is on your motor vehicle. So are you prepared to take that sort of risk is a big question. Again, computers and all your electronics, do you take that off because they've sort of all dispersed at home? Crime is still happening, and you know, last thing you want to lose is equipment that you've got to replace after this. So, I mean, to me, I've sucked it in. I've looked at personal stuff where I've certainly found quite a few things in my personal insurance that I've taken out that were unnecessary.
Okay.
But none of the business stuff, unfortunately.
Okay, but I mean,
what I have also heard, Jacques, what I have heard is that some people's brokers are discounting part of their commission fee. That's all I've heard. Yeah. So they appeal to your broker on the discount and the commission fee, which is a small portion of that insurance premium.
Yes, and I think one also have to take cognizance of the fact that the insurance aren't necessarily going to come to you and offer the deal to you. You've got to go to them and ask for it, you know, and he who asks shall receive. So I think, you know, it's important that you actually reach out to those companies that you've supported with your insurance premiums, and make sure that or ask them whether they've got an ability to assist you with that. Especially if you've got a big fleet, Paul. I can imagine if you've got a few vehicles, you know, every little bit is going to count, and you could easily save up a few thousand rands for the next 2 to 3 months.
Absolutely. So again, just sort of moving out those payments and asking for a payment holiday with your service provider or financier there would certainly help. I see Leslie has stated here, and he does own an insurance brokerage. Insurance payment holidays are given by some insurers. Santam has announced that all its clients will get back their motor premium only.
Okay.
So
That could be substantial,
definitely
yeah.
worth talking to your people. You know.
Yeah.
Business, I mean, they've asked about business insurance or business interruption is linked to a fire and peril. So no cover for COVID as there's no material damage to the business.
Okay.
You know, but I think everyone should be encouraged to make contact with their insurance broker if they have a broker or insurance company directly, and just find out what you can and what you can't do.
Yeah, and see, and also, you know, it's a good opportunity to update your stuff. You know, use it not just to ensure that you've got the right stuff on, but use it also as an opportunity to obtain comparative quotes, and make sure that you've got everything on your insurance that is necessary. Because sometimes, you know, forget these things, and we always have the intention to do it, but it goes on to the bottom of the to-do list, because there's always more important things to do admin on insurance. I mean, really, that's how exciting can that be? But it is important. You've got the time now. Really urge you to go and look at those insurance, and somewhere in the process get some competitive quotes.
Yeah, and I think that should be an annual discipline for all of us to do. I know I try and do it annually, is to sit with the broker and reassess the vehicle values, the computers, and relook that every year.
Absolutely. Okay. Cool. All right, Paul, let's move on to the next thing, subscriptions. So I've put subscriptions in there because, once again, I think you just have to go and look at all the debit orders that are going off your account. I mentioned it last week. Some of my clients have canceled their DSTV subscriptions that they have had. You know, that's $1,000 a month, easy. You know, just really look at that, because I'm sure if you add it all up, it could make a significant difference. And do the sum. Go whatever the saving is, times it by 12. Because that's the real saving that you're looking at over a 12-month period. So don't just look at this from, ooh, it's COVID-19, can I afford this? But rather ask a different question and say, is this expense relevant for my business post-lockdown? Because that's the way that we've got to look at our businesses at this stage. Is this stuff still going to be relevant post-lockdown? And then the last one that I want to talk about, Paul, is just vehicle finance. Although, once again, it's very personal. It's going to depend on your own profiles, but it also links to experiences that I've had with clients, where I know that some of my clients have had vehicles refinanced. You know, so once again, it's not a cost saving. It's just a holiday. So you're going to pay longer on your premiums. It's going to cost you more interest. So it's going to cost you more, but you could probably get 2 to 3 months no premium. But that premium then gets added onto your vehicle finance, or they refinance your vehicle as such, and they'll just extend the payment terms afterwards. So if you go and look, and you know, maybe you've got a few vehicles on your account, it could easily add up to 10, 20, 30,000 per month. And having that cost, or having that cash flow saving, not cost saving, cash flow saving in your business, you know, and if that helps and prevents you from dipping into your reserves, that would really be something that I would recommend, is do everything possible not to dip into those reserves. Paul, any comment from your side that you've had regarding vehicle finance?
No, Jacques, and I'm running quite a big fleet of cars, and I think it might certainly be worth talking to Westbank about it. And you know, just as you say, you know, if I look at the months ahead of my cash flow, particularly next month, because I'm still taking a very conservative approach, I'm going to run into reserves. So I've got to start looking at, I think, things like this, that how do we just move it forward a little bit, you know,
Okay.
and try and get some form of reprieve.
You know, so Paul, on the one hand, I'm sort of saying, be careful, there's a cost element. And on the other hand, I'm saying, you know, go and see. So it might sound like a double message. And I just want to ensure that everybody's not confused about that. It's very personal, these things. So you've got to decide what your personal situation looks like. But I think as a principle, try and not go into your reserves. Keep your reserves alive. Because when people start going in their reserves, your whole mentality change, and you become, you start to develop a fear mentality, or you start developing a mentality of scarcity. And that's a very dangerous mentality to go in, because as soon as you go in that type of mentality, your decision-making ability decreases and diluted. So I'm urging you to put yourself in the best decision-making ability by ensuring that you're doing your miracle mornings and ensuring you are maintaining reserves in your business. And if that reserve needs to say, well, it's going to cost me a bit of money by refinancing my cars, and it's going to cost me X amount extra over a 3-year period, then, you know, go for the plunge. But just make sure that you've got enough reserves to carry your business. And as a rule of thumb, you should have, as a minimum reserve, be able to carry your overheads for 3 months. That, as a rule of thumb, should be your minimum. I mean, if you can do 6 months or you can do 12 months, great. And if that's your comfort level, great. Keep it there. Don't go and change it to 3 months just because I've mentioned 3 months. The 3-month benchmark is rather for those who are on the 3 months, or maybe just below the 3 months, where I'm urging you to not touch those reserves. Keep those reserves handy, because you don't have a crystal ball and we don't know what the future is going to look like. Paul, any final comment for you on cost saving just before I start wrapping up our time together?
No, Jacques, I think you've covered everything. I don't know if any of the franchisees or their staff out there might have any ideas around further savings, or any questions to us with regards to other possibilities that could be saved. I know Lloyd, I think, made mention of one of the subscriptions last week of Red Rabbit, where we had made appeals to most of our service providers, but that one we hadn't followed up on. So they did come back to me yesterday after following up with them, and that they are busy working on something, and they did say it is looking very favorable. So That's one subscription, but I think those subscriptions will be very, very surprised at what one can achieve with the various subscriptions.
Okay. All right, Paul. I'm not seeing, oopsie, excuse me. I'm not seeing.
I haven't seen any other responses. No,
other
other
responses
than
or stuff. So I'm going to assume that that's all good. I just want to share a last slide for 30 seconds. And this is what we're going to cover next week, Paul. You know, the first seminar was about facing the brutal facts. The second one was about, you know, cost saving versus no free lunch and what we can do around that. But the one next week, Thursday, which is supposedly the 30th, well, not supposedly, it's the 30th, and supposedly to be our last one. I then want to go, excuse me, I then want to talk about how can we impact our cash flow. Because, you know, we've then done what we've done. We've faced the brutal facts. We've done our cash flow projections. We've looked at our costs, but now we've got to start bringing in the money. And I'm going to share with you some dashboards and some tips and tricks about how we can do that. And I look forward to be spending some time with you, Paul, and your team next week, Thursday, same place, same time. Hopefully we've got some good news from our president tonight. But we'll be spending again 5 to 6 next Thursday on talking about how do we take our businesses through or post this lockdown time. Paul, that's it from excuse me. That's it from me. Anything final from your side?
Thank you, Jacques. Yeah, thanks for a little bit of input and encouragement, I think, which we all need at times like this. So hence the start off with your suggestions of the miracle morning. Appreciate that input. And yeah, hopefully we all know to go. And I've made some notes of some things that sort of have always been in the top of my mind, but just haven't action. So I think this is the big thing, is we all know what sort of actions we need to take, but sometimes we're a little bit apprehensive to just step out there and do it. So yeah, and I think we've just got to do those numbers carefully. Like, I know a big one for me is the vehicle finance, but yeah, one's got to just look at those numbers very carefully and see, you know, if you're going to delay it, how much more is it going to pay you, and do you rather just bite the bullet now?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you gave us some good input, and looking forward to next week's session. And I just want to wish everyone well with the coming weekend and last working day of the week tomorrow. I know we're all going through a very anxious time, but we're in this together, and we've got to stick together and work through it together. And yeah, I'm still very grateful for the type of business that we have. My heart certainly goes out to a lot of industries out there that I think we're going to hear tonight that are seriously going to be impacted with the release back into business, like restaurants that we're already battling.
Yeah.
They're not going to be the ones coming back. So we certainly are in a much more favorable and fortunate position. So yeah, let's be grateful for that. And yeah, we're in this together, and we looking forward to a good response from the president tonight, hopefully.
And whatever the response is, Paul, we'll make the best of it. And let's make sure that we are on top of the things we can control, and that is how we start our morning. So have a look at those videos that I've shared with you guys. It's in the meeting invite. There's a link to a YouTube clip. If you battle with it, just send me an email. My email address is also in the meeting invite. I'll make sure you get that. And then, yeah, wishing you all a beautiful evening. Enjoy the president, and see you guys next week. And Paul, thank you very much once again for the opportunity to be with your team.
Thank you, Jacques. Appreciate your time, and I hope you all have a great evening.
Great. Thank you very much. Cheers, everyone.
Bye-bye.